I love analogies, especially when we're putting it in terms of our physical structure, our physical makeup, and also how our bodies like to work.
Mhm.
I think that's a really important thing because we have capabilities, but we are limited by certain things, and I think that this correlation of like clothing and how our bodies work and how they fit and what people think looks best sometimes keeps us from finding our truest selves and also makes us feel most comfortable in our own skin,
Right.
or our own clothes in this case. Yeah.
Right, which is the more beneficial, which is the juicier exploration, the outer bounds of what we can do versus our version of what somebody else does. And so,
Right.
we talk about it a lot of like, your A game is so much more interesting than your C version of somebody else's A game. And
Right.
what do you do with that? And I think when Geneva, when you were just saying that, it reminds me of the element in kind of that I don't think a lot of singers and sometimes even voice teachers and voice workers think about is voice type. Can you speak to that, Jeremy, a little bit about when one voice type wants to try to do the maneuvers of another voice type? Because sometimes people don't even realize that there are different categories of voice that are based on physiology and biomakeup. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
It's a common thing, certainly within, I know it's certainly within classical singing. I think to some extent in musical theater and in contemporary voice and other non-classical genres. It's this idea that one of the weird things is that we somehow think that there's one voice type that's somehow better than the other. I'm a lower voice type. I sing baritone and bass baritone rep. And I know, but ironically, the ironic thing is that there was many years in my life where people said, "Oh, that guy, you're probably a baby tenor, or you're a young tenor," and so I'm like, okay. I mean, at the time, I was like, yeah, that's okay. But I know that there is this idea that somehow certain voice types are more preferred than others. And I'm not even talking, if you go into the classical world, we have sopranos, mezzo-sopranos, tenors, and let's say baritones, bass baritones, and stuff, and even smaller divisions within that. But let's even talk about like sopranos. Not all sopranos are created equal in terms of their physical structures and their genetic makeup and the type of sounds that they can create. And often, we live in a world where supersizing is somehow deemed as being better, bigger is better. So if you have a lighter voiced soprano, often there is this either like outwardly spoken or unspoken energy that somehow you would be a little bit better if you were a bigger voice type. And so all of a sudden there is like massive judgments towards the individual that feels like, wow, I am actually less than because I am 6 foot tall versus 6'1". I'm going to use that analogy. There turns into a little bit of that behavior. And the amount of frustration that kicks in for singers when they feel like, even within voice types, I need to somehow be a bigger voice type, or actually I'm not a mezzo soprano, I should be a soprano, or vice versa. I mean, that happens too. Or I'm a baritone and I'm singing in contemporary musical theater, and I just need to sing those higher notes because that's what I need to do in this industry, because it's better if I'm a tenor. Yeah. Which is really kind of weird to think like it's better if I was just a different person, because that's what it sounds like.
There's an ethics problem in there, isn't there?
Yeah,